Welcome to the CASA Leadership Lounge, where we dive into the policies shaping the work of Florida's school leaders. I'm Michelle White, Executive Director of the Florida Association of School Administrators.
And I'm Jessica Jana Seawitz, lobbyist for FAFSA and for several school districts across the state of Florida.
This week, Tallahassee should be buzzing with legislators and lobbyists for a special session on redistricting. However, the streets are empty and the town is very quiet. This week's special session was postponed until next week for now.
That's right. So there are a couple of reasons for the delay. First, from what we've heard, no one has come up with a map yet to propose for this redistricting plan. And then we've also heard tale that the governor wants to see what happens tomorrow in Virginia, where they have a redistricting referendum on the ballot. So he wanted to see how that apparently would proceed as well.
That's right. But not to worry, if the special session happens next week, it looks like it will also include the discussion on two of the governor's key issues from the regular session this year that failed to win House support. The first is a bill expanding vaccine exemptions for public K-12 students, and the second is legislation aimed at protecting consumers' interactions with AI.
And it certainly will be interesting to see. As you mentioned, these bills did not pass the House during this last legislative session, which just ended a few weeks ago. So it's hard to see if anybody's mind will have changed in that time, but we shall certainly see. And then, of course, I'm sure everyone is asking as we tackle all these issues of redistricting and AI and vaccine mandates, aren't they supposed to pass a budget? And as we have mentioned many times on this podcast, yes, in fact, the only constitutional mandate for the legislature is to pass a budget, which we have not done thus far.
That's right. And of course, the next question is probably, when are they going to get to that? Or will it be passed before the start of the new fiscal year? And to answer in the words of beloved comedian Dave Bargatze, nobody knows. And of course, we want to remember that the budget must be passed by June 30th to avoid a state government shutdown. And the state of Florida has never had a government shutdown.
And we came, as our listeners, I'm sure will recall, we came very close to not having a budget in time last year. One would think that this year would be a little bit easier because session ended in March. Last year, of course, session ended in May. So it was a lot closer to that June deadline. And yet, we still don't have anything yet. So we will stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have an update next week on, what ends up occurring during that special session. So, but of course, it's also an election year. And in election news, we have our a famous attorney here in Florida, John Morgan, announced that he is not running for governor. There had been some speculation that perhaps he was going to throw his hat in the ring. But what he has decided he wants to do is form a viable third party. He believes that being independent with no party affiliation is not the answer, and that there needs to be a third party that has a name and all of the kind of ideas surrounding that they support that people can kind of rally behind and join.
Absolutely. I would also encourage listeners to go back to last week's episode of the podcast if they did not hear all the updates on the research around no party affiliation and independence within the state of Florida, because it really can impact our election process. But as Morgan said, no labels doesn't work because everybody wants to be a member of a team. Have you ever seen anybody walking around with a jersey with no logo and no name? No. He is so confident that he can get a new party up and running. He's sponsoring a contest with a $100,000 prize for someone to name the new party. Something kind of tells me that the For the People Party has already been suggested.
I would bet that is a safe bet. In other election news, former Florida House Speaker Paul Renner came out last week saying that he believes that the Democratic candidate David Jolly would beat the current Republican runner for governor, Byron Donalds, in the general election. Renner said that Donalds has problems that can be exploited by Jolly, and he has, quote, not delivered results for the people, missed votes, and just a not great stellar record. Just remember, there's a long way between now and the general election for governor, and there are still quite a number of candidates, over 40, I think, that are currently. And of course, there's also, importantly, the primary election that will take place before that. And then another candidate who Jay Collins, our current lieutenant governor, basically echoed the same kind of comments that Speaker Renner did. Clearly, they are both making these comments. They are not even close to Byron Donalds right now in the polls, so you can see obviously why they would like to have their name out there a little bit more. So we shall see.
For sure. Trying to get the good press in any way they can. And of course, they can see what's happening in the fundraising news as well.
That's right.
So, in even more election news, the very crowded field for governor became a little less crowded last week with a true Florida man dropping out of the race in the worst possible way. So, Kevin Chakowski was arrested by Flagler County deputies after he reportedly battered and threatened to kill two elderly victims. How awful for those people.
Good heavens. So here's what happened. On April 10th, deputies responded to a call about a domestic disturbance in Palm Coast. Reports stated that Chakowski hit one victim with a cane and threw a cell phone at the other person, and he was allegedly armed with a gun. Chakowski was taken into custody and arrested after surrendering to deputies. He's facing multiple charges, understandably, including aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, battery on a person over 65, and robbery. He has had some issues in the past with an arrest in 2024 for domestic battery. So just horrible, horrible news.
Absolutely. And all the more reason that, we need to investigate all candidates and know who's running, no matter what side of the aisle they may be on, and be informed voters across the board. So also last week, in switching out of this news, Orange County Public Schools announced that they're going to implement a 3% cut across all district departments, quote, resulting in the elimination of more than 200 positions. If there's any good news in this announcement, it is that most of those 200 positions are currently vacant. A district spokesperson said that by cutting these positions, they can budget the funds to other areas such as instructional staff or facilities.
In an attempt to cut some costs and bring more consistent law enforcement presence in their local schools, Broward County Schools expects to start replacing school police officers from local cities with ones from their own police force next year. 3 cities, Fort Lauderdale, Margate, and Hallandale Beach, received letters saying that the district plans to no longer use their school resource officers during the next school year. Margate officers would be replaced by district officers in August, while most schools in Fort Lauderdale and Hallandale Beach would be replaced in January 2027, district officials said.
So this plan has been questioned by some mayors and a few school board members who believe the plan wasn't communicated well, and police officers would provide the best protection for schools. Right now, however, the district has 14 separate contracts with law enforcement departments from local cities. The police contract costs have risen 290% in the last 10 years, and right now the district pays about $119,000 for each school resource officer. The price for having a district school officer, including benefits, would be slightly above $100,000.
Let's finish this week off with a high note with a couple of positive things. First, this week is National Student Leadership Week. It is a week to celebrate student voices and honor those who amplify their voices in their schools and communities.
There are a number of virtual meetups this week for student leaders, including a leadership webinar today on Monday, October 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and a student leadership virtual pep rally on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find more information on the National Student Leadership Week by clicking on the resources link in this week's podcast description.
In another great positive story that emerged this week, FAFSA and our esports partner, Play BS, held the Spring Esports Championships at Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando. The esports program had its most successful season ever with 85 schools, 248 teams, and 908 players competing.
And we want to just say thank you to all of those schools participating. It is a great way to get students engaged in that school culture and school spirit in a different way than physically being on the field, so to speak, or the court. But we also want to congratulate the champions and runners up for this season. The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, our champion this year is Windermere High School. and runner-up is Dr. Phillips High School. In our Marvel Rivals game, the champion this year is Pace High School, and runner-up is Doral Academy Charter High School. In Rocket League, champion this year is Vieira High School, and our runner-up is Lake Brantley High School. And Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which may or may not be one of my favorite games to play with my son, is champion this year is Florida Virtual School, and runner-up is Innovation High School.
So if your school has an esports program or is thinking about starting one, click on the link in the podcast description to find out more about the FAFSA Play VS esports leagues. It's free to participate, and our partners at Play VS can help you get everything set up to have your students participate.
That's right. This is a program that is going to continue to grow, and you don't want your students to miss out on the opportunity. This is all we have for this week. We look forward to talking with you soon, so keep on listening.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lounge podcast presented by the Florida Association of School Administrators. Today's podcast was hosted by Michelle White and Jessica Janasiewicz. The podcast was produced by Jeff Willoughby. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. New episodes are released each Monday. For show topics, suggestions, questions, or comments, please email communications@fasa.net. We hope you enjoyed the show.